Welcome to my lovely native garden with some edibles interspersed. We have purple poppy mallow here in the front, interspersed with some of our native violets. Over here I have a tree that's fallen down, but I also have some black-eyed peas planted around it that'll grow up. And along with the black-eyed peas, I also have our native Apios americana, the American groundnut, which is a native edible. I have a couple of new plants here that I'm bringing in, red whiskers, and then I always put a cage over them to keep the squirrels from digging them up. This is Ruellia humilis, our native wild petunia. We also have a little patch of strawberries out in the front, a couple of our signs with the Native Pollinator Research Project and milkweeds for monarchs. We have an apple tree here in the front. This is a dwarf apple. It's starting to produce. And a hazelnut bush here out in the front, and we get a pretty good crop of hazels every year. But this is our echinacea, another native. Tucked under here with a good eastern face is Solidago drummondii, the cliff goldenrod. Coming up onto the porch, I'll introduce you to a new addition. These are quail, 4 Coturnix quail. I have in the hazelnut tree or bush, I have a cardinal's nest that I just spotted. And coming down the path, there's some common milkweed, some more echinacea, and here blooming in the morning, spiderwort, and then Texas green ice, Burlandia texana. Underneath the pear tree, we have our wild violets, also groundsel. This is Lepia celata, the horse mint, one of our horse mints. And then out here in this area, there's the orange milkweed. There's a big liatris that hasn't yet bloomed. And then you'll see a good number of these smaller fern-like plants. That's partridge pea. And that'll bloom later in the season. I also have 2 pawpaw trees, and pawpaws are already starting to fruit. They've got fruit forming. There's some right there. And there are a number of clusters. If you look through the tree, so I should have a good bit of fruit in September. Also along the path, walking up, I have these 2, they're non-native, a nepeta or a catmint, but it's a long blooming plant that's good for the pollinators. I have here the aromatic aster, another one of our natives. I also have a little bit of herb presence here. Here's some thyme. I do share that with neighbors. They'd like to come by and get some thyme for their cooking. And also here, some oregano, also in bloom. Got the little sign for that as well. This is the prairie dropseed, Sporobolus heterolepsis. This is the pear tree. That collar was an attempt to keep the squirrels out, but we got good fruit production this year. Also in the front, this is my view from the porch. There's a small waterer for the critters. And then a little bird bath as well. I have a native willow. It's really good for pollinators. And then a couple of more native plants in here. And then up against the house, this is the north side of the house, is celandine poppy, which is not blooming now, but that has been blooming in the past. And of course our wild violets. Take a look at my compost bin. I wove it from some of the plants here from stakes, and then I just throw the compost in the top. I have a little top here if I need to cover it over. This is the breezeway, and since it's a little shadier here, I've got some of the shade plants. So there's wild ginger. The Virginia bluebells have already disappeared. There's a little more columbine. And then of course the wild violets, which have a good deal of leaf damage, so I'm supporting a good number of critters back here. Down the breezeway heading to the backyard, I have a little pot here of potatoes. I've never had great luck with potatoes, so I'm trying just doing it in a big bin and gradually filling the bin with soil as the plants get older. A little plant nursery here where I'm keeping some of my newer plants and growing them out. And I have these perennial onions, which are great. I just harvest them and they're always there for me. And the French sorrel in the back, again, I harvest that regularly, and sometimes I have to whack it back a little bit because it is a little bit aggressive. I always keep a little bit of the plantago, the plantain, the narrow leaf plantain. I call it my band-aid plant. Good for stings or insect bites. This lovely plant is feverfew. Tucked in behind there, I've got the gooseberry bush just getting started. It's taken a while for that to take root. Goji berry getting started here. Black currant. I'm trying to propagate some golden currant to add. In the space between the garages, I have, again, the American groundnut and some sunchokes, like both edibles. And then against the north end of the shed, I have what I call my woodland garden with some native ferns, the Solomon seal, and then a couple other shade plants. Nice big strawberry patch. It's really finished blooming now. You can see the big clusters of flowers are elderberry. There's also blackberry bushes back there. My mini prairie right in the middle there to attract the insects and provide for birds as well. Coming up on this side, we have black raspberries. I've got green beans. These are pole beans that are going to grow up there. Got a cutting from a grapevine. I've got an oak seedling here. I have a little tiny pond here that's covered over by some tiles. Part of it's covered over by some tiles. Adds some diversity, adds a water element to the space, and has some native water plants growing in it, including Sagittaria latifolia, which is also called duck potato. That has an edible tuber. Kiwi vine, just getting started here. A couple of volunteer sunflower plants. And then this is my kitchen garden. I have beans. Got a number of different tomato plants. Some I grew from seed, some I've gotten from friends. Some lettuce here. I haven't done too well with lettuce. I do have microgreens inside. These are soybeans, and then I put a little basil plant and a few tomatoes in there. More green beans, and then these are some that I grew from seed. This is watermelon and tomato. In the top terrace here, garlic, sweet potatoes, and cantaloupe. Sign there. blueberries, a grapevine that is trellised on a mulberry, fig coming up, bright orange, that's another milkweed plant. This is Echinacea paradoxa, the yellow coneflower. And because they're in those cinder blocks, they warm up more quickly, and therefore it's going to flower a little more quickly as well.